very far away, Maria.
I know. Let's get closer. Let's get closer.
Let's just do it. Sorry, guys, we're ruining the system. All right. So thanks so much for that. Really, really insightful. And thanks to everyone for staying through your lunch for us. So, Maria, I think it's really interesting. There's been so much talk about technology, innovation, and I guess for you guys at Salesforce, as you think about cloud technology, was there any like aha moment, or maybe a series of them, where you really thought, this is fundamentally changing how we service and make our customers more successful? Was there a series of moments or one in particular you can think of?
I think, for me, probably first when I first came to the world of Salesforce and the world of the real cloud environment, it was number one for me is it's really the trust component, where I didn't, necessarily, get it, but how important it is that the customers trust you.
Yeah.
And once they trust you, then everything changes, right? I think trust is probably the biggest thing that I never anticipated it was going to be an issue there. And I think the other one is about how little technology has to play sometimes, because we're running, the product for the company is less like in my previous lives, right? Where in a job like this, you're spending most of the time talking technology with customers. Here, you spend a lot more time talking about their business, what they're doing, what are their business processes, what do they need to do is the main conversation.
Wow. That's really interesting as well to think about, and I'd love your thoughts on customer success as you think of it now, compared to, so if I refer to my own background many moons ago when I was at Dell, customer support was a function that sat quite separate from the rest of the organization. Well, all the different pieces of the organization were separate. And as I reflect on that now, I see how you're approaching customer success as being much more integrated. And I'd love, your thoughts on how does that look now and maybe even the future of customer success in that context.
Well, it's really fascinating because I think it's still a pretty new thing, right?
Sure.
It's very new, so I'm sure with that, even every year for us, we're evolving, we're changing. Like what I talk about, this whole automated customer journeys, that's new, right? We didn't have that before. They're applying artificial intelligence to this, so I know we are going to evolve, and when we're talking, a year or 2 years from now, it's going to be completely different, right?
Sure. Yep.
So I think that we need to look at it that way, look at it that we're learning. I think we need to do a lot of education with our customers because many times they don't take advantage of it because they're used to working with companies in the traditional way.
Yep.
And so we do a lot of education around so that customers can learn what we're doing.
Gotcha. So you're thinking about it more as educating and evangelizing rather than perhaps even selling.
Yeah.
Good. And you mentioned AI, and obviously artificial intelligence, it's been a big theme over these couple of days. And we had an interview with the robot earlier, and he's been a major point. I guess, do you see a time when, customer success or some elements of customer support, those tasks perhaps are performed by robots? Will we get to that? Is that a bit too, some people might be a little bit afraid of that. Will that mean there are less jobs? How do you think about the involvement of artificial intelligence and what that means in the customer success and delivery of that?
So I think it will change the landscape for sure, completely. I think a lot of tasks will be more automated, like I talked about earlier. I think bots are already a reality.
Sure.
In terms of handling, responses, automated responses, and the like. So that is here, and I think it will accelerate.
Yep.
And it will take a big place out of it. The way we think about it is, okay, that's great because what it does, it frees the human beings to actually do the more value-added tasks.
Gotcha.
Right? Let the automation, let the technology do the things that are low value, and then save the team to really engage in the more meaningful conversations and activities with customers.
Brilliant, very good. One thing that, like from your keynote, really strikes me is this customer gap. I guess, we've always heard that it's, once you hold on to your customers, it's far, less expensive to keep your customers than to acquire new ones. So that's great, and customer retention is really important in customer success. But now you're telling us that actually it's much harder than we really think. Like 77% of those customers aren't really particularly engaged. So do you have any advice for organizations here about how do we bridge that gap? How can we make that better?
So I think that's the opportunity for companies. I think the companies that will survive are the ones that take advantage of the technologies, right? Versus being afraid about it. I hear a lot when I go to customers, because that's what we do, right?
Yeah.
We go into a lot of customers to tell them, you have to use these tools to better help your customers, right? Yeah. And you find a lot of pushback sometimes from certain companies saying, oh, but I'm not, that's too modern for me, or that's too advanced. My customer base, it doesn't need that, right?
Yep.
But when you actually, at least the data that we have from the service is the customers are expecting that.
Yep.
You have to, in order for you to be competitive, you have to use it or you'll be disrupted, and
yep.
you won't be here, 10 years from now.
Yep. And do you see particular sectors or industries that are where that customer gap is bigger or smaller? Any insights from Salesforce about what does that look like?
I think every industry has that issue, right? What we're seeing is in every industry, the early adopters
yep.
are the ones that are taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
But as I look at retailers, we work with car manufacturers, banks. They all have the issue. You may have the one or two that are really advanced, and then the other ones that are different steps of the journey.
Gotcha. Yeah. It is fascinating, and it's really interesting, even as you say, so many folks will say, oh, my customers aren't really ready for that, or we're not that technical. But to your point, your customers are really expecting it, so you've got to deliver it when they expect it. Steve Hatch earlier actually mentioned that from Facebook, that the only thing that's changing faster than technology is our expectations of technology. So it's important we think of those. So I guess as we think about digital transformation, and that's a big theme over these couple of days, and of course more widely, serving customer needs and proactively doing that, do you think, obviously, you guys at Salesforce are really trying to evangelize and bring new technologies. As you think about, being opportunistic enough, are we pushing ourselves enough? Where do you think the next biggest opportunities are going to be for digital transformation?
Well, first of all, I think right now almost every company that I work with, and I work with a lot, they're all talking about digital transformation, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of like the topic,
yep.
right, for everybody. So everybody has a different meaning for it, but everybody, sometimes it's, for example, things about. Sometimes CEOs focus on transforming their own employee base.
Yeah.
Like I want all my employees to have a very, mobile technology access to technologies that they can get, share services and
yes.
all that. And then other companies are a lot more externally focused. When
yep.
they're saying I need to change how I sell to my customers or the like. But
sure.
I think that the opportunities are there. What we're finding out is that what customers get lost because they don't know how,
yeah.
right? And they see a lot of this technology and a lot of this vision and all these videos, and they say, I want that. And they don't know, how to do it.
Yep.
So we're spending a lot more time now on building a lot more capability. We've acquired a couple of consulting companies in the area of design and looking at things like change management and things that we were not looking at before,
yeah.
because customers are getting stuck on
sure.
How to make progress on that.
So you're trying to add value at all parts of that value chain
yeah.
of digital transformation. And do you think, as we think about being opportunistic and transforming digitally in whatever that means for different companies, do you think, newer startups have an advantage? Or are older, more established businesses at an advantage because they have money to invest? It feels like everyone thinks somebody else would have this easier.
Yeah.
What's your view on that?
I think that, probably smaller companies have an advantage because many of them, the ones that are getting funded right now from day one, they are in the cloud.
Yep.
Nobody's going to go back, right? They are going to just buy everything cloud. They're going to use newer technology so they can move faster because they don't have a lot of legacy.
Sure.
Large companies do have more resources, but they do have also big obstacles around, getting the teams aligned to execute and how they move there. Although there are a lot that are saying, at least the way what we advocate with large companies is you don't really have to replace your legacy systems.
Yes.
You can just create a layer in front of it to take more value out of the data that you have without replacing them. So interface them and build a layer in front of that to engage with your customers.
Sure. Brilliant. One thing that strikes me about your keynote, and I suppose as we think about customer success, is that it feels like there's this real blurring of lines between customer success or customer support or service and sales, and even into the world of marketing. Like, they're now all becoming very much part of how we go to market. It is not that they are separate entities or separate from each other. How do you think the business world is embracing that blurring of lines? Is that difficult, do you think, for some of your clients?
I think it's difficult. It's very difficult because, there's a lot of functions that, but what we see the real successful companies is the ones that truly are looking at this as all one integrated, environment, right? And that's why when you deploy tools that are highly collaborative inside of the company, which is, I talk about the importance of collaboration and social and mobile, allows the different teams to work better together.
Yes.
And if you build the right architecture, right, with this 360-degree view of the customer, so that means that as any function is interacting with the customer, the data that they are capturing from them and the experience can get logged into a central place. So if a different team, can use it. And then of course there are companies. We work with KLM, and they have done an amazing work. It started on the support side, where they were just doing a call center. It's a rainstorm and lots of people need to change flights or whatever they're answering. So they started using our product and leveraging the social media to do that. As a matter of fact, right now they pick up about 30,000 a week.
Wow.
Social media
Amazing.
Interactions that are happening there that nobody knows, and they are listening. They are capturing those and bringing them in to take action. Well, one of the opportunities they found out, not only that they can, help the customer in the immediate thing, but cross-sales opportunities. So, for example, if I couldn't, they will pick someone that got stuck at an airport on another airline. So they take that on, and now they're passing it on to the person and delivering a message that with one click they can get a plane ticket and get a refund.
Amazing.
Right? So that you can see their sales, and then of course there are marketing applications in there as well.
Wow, excellent. That's fascinating. Brilliant. So I guess one other thing that feels quite interesting about Salesforce as you go to market, and you mentioned it earlier, that you guys brought in a new business model, so the subscription model or pay as you go. And I would imagine that feels a little bit uneasy because customers can effectively switch off at any time. So you're consistently having to win that customer. Like you feel, it feels like a bit like my business, right? There's no guarantees. You've got to be always winning your current customers and new ones. So again, like, how did you guys think of that model? How do you think other customers and other businesses out here should be trying to win customers and win their existing customers, as well as the whole idea of acquiring new? Like, how do you think that people can do a better job of thinking about that subscription model as being, a really good thing? How do you guys embrace that at Salesforce?
Well, I think first when we came up with the model, at least as I hear it from the organization, it was primarily thought from a pure financial perspective, right? In the sense that, wouldn't it be great if we have an annuity forever, right? Basically. So it came up from the roots were very financially oriented. But what the company realized, fairly quickly, was that, well, that has a good side and a bad side.
Yep.
So, that's what actually propelled, the creation of the customer success function,
Yep.
which the company pioneered, right, early on, to start working on that. And that, of course, what's the model has been done that. But it completely changes the perspective that you have about how to relate to the customer. We call it a family, right? We're all in the family. We use the word ohana, because it's the Hawaiian name from family. The roots of the company actually were in Hawaii.
Oh, fantastic.
That's when Mark Benioff, created the company. And we say, it's the ohana. So we truly have the spirit that the customer is part of the family, and we need to really take care of them.
Excellent. So, but of course, as your number of customers grows so quickly, you mentioned you're in hypergrowth, and for many businesses here that may be in hypergrowth, how do you continue to keep that service level feeling like it's personal and relevant and absolutely specific to the customer needs at a point in time, but at a scale that you mentioned you've 180,000 customers and presumably that's growing. How do you manage to give people the right service at the right time?
Well, I think part of it is we create a lot of products that help different ways to advise our customers and different services. We're always thinking about services as a product as well to make sure that we do that. But if I had to pick one thing, I would say it's the culture of the team, right? Work really hard on the culture of the team, making sure that they know that the customer comes first, and that we're always innovating on how we serve them better. We talked about technology, we talk about products, all that, but at the end of the day, it's about taking care of our customers, right? And we do that, and I personally, as a leader of the organization, take that as a big responsibility to make sure that I'm always. So, for example, just to give you an example, this morning as I was at the airport, I was evening out in the U.S., and someone, tweeted something about we were not being responsive, right? Okay. So that happens, and every once in a while, more than often, I am calling that person personally myself, right?
Amazing.
To show the team that first the customer apologized, what went wrong, whatever, but to show the team that we all need to be there for our customers, and creating that true culture of customer success, I think it's the number one thing that I would pick for this.
Amazing. And I think what's really, as you say, the key point there is that it's from the top down. It's every single person being customer first, not just a small cohort, but everyone.
So the whole company.
Amazing. So I'm going to switch gears for a minute because I'm so interested in your career journey. And of course, Dublin Tech Summit has done a great job of ensuring that women are well represented here, and women in technology. And there's a session actually happening in parallel to this about how women are breaking barriers in technology. But I'd love to start with, I know your background, but for folks in the room who may not be familiar, can you give me a little summary of your amazing career so far?
Well, so I would say that I'm an engineer. I have both a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering. So very technical from the beginning of my career. Worked for AT&T Bell Laboratories, for 12 years, then for Motorola for 9, and then Microsoft for 7, and then now here. Now you all know how old I am, but. So I think it's been kind of an amazing journey to really, just live through many different technology disruptions. I think I was telling you that, when I joined Motorola, there were no cellular phones. So,
that's
being,
amazing,
seeing that whole industry. So I've had always a passion, for technology. But more important, when technology meets people, it's been kind of like at one point in my career, I realized that technology was no longer the hard topic. Really was managing and leading people, and making sure that you could really motivate teams to do great things. So that's been kind of what my focus has been.
Excellent. And I guess the thing that I love about your career story is that it feels like you were at the forefront of these technology companies almost before they became really successful at what they do. So, for example, you were at Motorola before cell phones, and then Microsoft was the cutting edge of software, and of course Salesforce is the cutting edge of cloud. So how do you position yourself, or for folks here who are maybe early stage in their careers, how do you position yourself for a job in a company that's not yet here, for a technology that's not yet known? For me, having worked at Facebook, it was somewhat similar. It's like, how do you find a role or potentially think about a role at some point in the future in a company that's not yet founded or a technology that's not around? So for you, how do you feel you've been able to navigate your career such that you're in a good position to be able to be on the next cutting edge and the emerging technology?
Well, I mean, I think always staying up to speed on what the latest is in technology, like coming to this conference, for example, right?
Good start.
A lot of these things, it's through these groups and the reading, staying up to speed on the research that is happening. You learn that you know when the technologies are emerging. And you have to do your assessment about where you're going to place your bets, right? And then after that, it's go on and take risk. Go and ask for that particular job, or try that. When you're looking for a different company, don't go to, like, for example, when I came to Salesforce, just to give you an idea, I knew I was going to leave Microsoft, and I had a lot of companies that wanted me. A lot of the large companies that were established. And, someone gave me a big piece of advice once. That he told me, he said, don't go where they want you, go where you want to go, right? So it really, was like a really important thing for me to think about. I think this is where, things are going, and let's just take a risk and try it.
Brilliant. So take risks and go where you want to go, not where you perhaps might drift. Excellent. Great. And so for women in technology then, I know this is an area you're passionate about too, where there may have been barriers, arguably there still are. For those in the audience who are, maybe getting started or maybe well established and working in tech, any advice, any thoughts about how we can, have a voice at the table?
Well, that's a topic that I'm very passionate about, because certainly I see there are clearly barriers, and the barriers are not, bad intentions from people. So it's just a lot about, how can we, help, just women, especially for me now that I've been around for a while. How do you help the younger, generations, to kind of have to deal with less hurdles, and all that. That clearly is, is a big passion of mine. I think one thing that I always tell people, and I think it's something I learned early on, is really be confident about yourself. One of the things that cultures naturally do and not intentionally is have low expectations for women in general. Again, not in an open way. So I always talk about, just be confident, just search inside of you, and if you think you can do something, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you cannot do it, or it will be too hard, or it would be too difficult. And I think if we could have more women be confident, I think that's going to change the landscape for us soon.
Sure. So really trying to breed more confidence into the next generation and make sure that they're being able to establish themselves too. Great stuff. So you're a leader in technology and in the industry so broadly. It's really interesting that you're inspiring so many of the next generation, and as you say, something you're very passionate about. Who inspires you, or who's inspired you through your career? Male or female?
Well, I think, I've been inspired by great leaders, many of them that have nothing to do with technology, right? Like we all have, people that have, for me, that have changed the status quo are probably the biggest inspiration still, like people like Martin Luther King or Gandhi, or more, because I do think that leaders need to really be themselves, their values as an individual is what gives you the strength to lead and to have a strong vision. But certainly in the work, domain, and even some of the companies that I have chosen them because those have been leaders that I have wanted to work for, right? So if I think about Motorola, it was Bob Galvin that, taught me a lot. Then moving to Microsoft with Bill Gates, of course, it was amazing. And now I think I have probably what I consider one of the best CEOs in the industry with Mark Benioff, which not only is an amazing leader from a vision for the technology, for the company, for the customer, right? We're all living his vision, but also he's a great person, wanting to really fundamentally make the world a better place, right? So what you do is you get inspired not only by the technology, but you also get inspired with a mission, to do something, for the world.
Amazing. That's great. And I guess as you think about the culture at Salesforce, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about that. So it sounds like Mark has really created this culture that is about customer first. And so for somebody new starting at Salesforce, let's say if there are folks here who might be at college or super early stage career, how could they position themselves to be in a good, to get a good job at Salesforce or the next Salesforce? How does the culture help people hear the voice of the new person or the inexperienced?
Well, so we think that the culture is very important. As a matter of fact, we screen people for cultural fit more than anything else, right?
Yep.
I think if you're passionate for technology, Mark has a phrase that he says, beginner's minds. We should always have beginner's minds. We should have listening. So we look for people that are not only what they know, but more important, what they're willing to learn, right? How much they're willing to evolve. The world is changing. It's changing very fast. Our culture is very agile, fast. It's very transparent. There's not a lot of hierarchy like the traditional companies. So you need people first that are going to embrace that and love it and love that dynamic environment, but also that are going to contribute to the future of the company because we're creating it in real time, right?
Yeah. So you want people who are invested in that and as passionate as you guys are. Yeah, for sure. So I think we have time for one last one, and it's going to have to be a bit of a flash forward. Okay. What are you most excited about for the next 12 or 18 months, either for you or Salesforce or your team? What's motivating you the most for the near to medium term?
I am motivated by the amazing. The technology that we have in front of us is just at the early days of realizing the value for customers. So what I get really, really excited about is about working with customers and helping them take advantage of all these things that we talk about. And when you think about it, it's just the beginning of that I think I completely, can see a long career of still, working with our customers to help them realize the value that they can for themselves and for their customers.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being so open with us and for being so candid. And it's been such a joy to speak to you today. So thank you so much, Maria Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.